All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new session of MCD Live. And today we are going to talk about something very, very sensitive, but something we may all have experienced at one point, at one time of our lives, and that is grief. Grief is something that we're going to understand further today because it's something very misunderstood. It is connected to only a certain type of event in our life, that is death. We don't differentiate between bereavement and grief. And we need to understand the difference. And we need to understand that everybody in this world, because of our individual differences, different factors, our cultures, our environments, everything contributes to how we actually express grief, how we process grief. So, today we're going to talk about understanding grief and understanding what healing is and what contributes to healing. So, before we begin, today's session is not supposed to push you into getting rid of grief or pretending that the pain that you may have experienced does not exist. It's just something that cannot be fixed in a single conversation. And it's something that takes some time. It's due amount of time. The goal today is to understand it, to understand what it is. And before we actually understand what's happening, what grief is, we need to understand how it happens and how we can actually become kinder to ourselves and to other people. People usually suffer twice when it comes to grief. First, pain is when they suffer from a loss, right? When they suffer a loss. And the second time is when they start believing that they are not grieving the right way or they are grieving incorrectly. They start to question themselves that why am I feeling this way? Why am I not getting better? And what is wrong with me? Why am I so exhausted all the time? And why am I not reacting the way everyone expects me to? You know? So today we are going to answer some of those questions because grief is a very deep human experience and it's not supposed to make you feel like you're doing it incorrectly or you're doing it the wrong way. So today we are going to get deeper into the details of that. So, before we try to get to understand the science behind it, um, if you ask yourself, what do you think grief really is? What is the concept of grief in your mind? And a lot of people may say it's just sadness and it's something that happens when you lose someone to death, or it could be, it could be, it could be limited to an explanation of someone, like in that sense. We do not have a diverse definition that actually covers the concept of grief, right? In our minds, we don't have that definition. Grief can be a loss of any kind. It's not bereavement. It's um it's a response to absolutely any meaningful loss in our life. It could be the loss of a loved one, of course, it can involve death, but it can also involve the grief of uh, a relationship that's lost and the end of a relationship. It could be any relationship. It could be a divorce. It could be a relationship with your friend of your friendships, or it could be absolutely anything. It could be the grief or the loss of someone who used to be someone, now they are not like that anymore. They have lost themselves, and you are grieving that loss. And it may be the loss of our good health. It could be losing our personality. It could be it could be infertility. It could be miscarriage. or it could even be retirement. A lot of elderly people in their age of retirement, they go through a lot of emotional crisis, and they're also grieving. A lot of things are going on with them. So we cannot um, not include these things when we talk about grief, right? So grief basically involves any kind of loss. It can involve any kind of transition in life that we may not be ready for it, or our heart was not ready for it. And it begins whenever your life changes. So, one thing that we need to understand and remember throughout today's session is that grief is not a pathology. It's not a pathological trait, or a pathological state of mind. It's just a very natural reaction to something that has happened in our life that we were just not expecting. And it is also, in a way, a positive indication that there was something that we valued, there was something that we loved enough, valued enough, that at its end, um, we actually have the capacity to grieve it. If we didn't love in the beginning, if the love didn't existed, the grief wouldn't have existed either, right? So it actually touches the idea that there was something, and that is exactly why grief is there as well. When you didn't value something, when you didn't love anything, the grief wouldn't have been there as well in case there's a loss. So that is something we need to understand, because we have pathologized grief and our very natural reaction to that. So it could be anything. It could even be a plan that you may have for the future, and things didn't work out the way you planned, right? So it could be absolutely anything. It does not have a limited definition. It could be absolutely anything meaningful for you. So before we get further into the discussion of this, it's very important we come to the present and try to stay where we are, and stop our mind from wandering around here and there, and just stay exactly where we are. And we look towards what we are discussing right now, and not the things that may have happened in the past or may happen in the future. So I want you all to sit comfortably and place your feet on the floor. If you're sitting, if you're not sitting, if you're just lying straight or lying on the bed, relaxing, just calm your shoulders. And if you feel comfortable, just gently close your eyes. You can keep them open, but I always say it's better if you close them. It makes you concentrate much better. So just try to keep your eyes closed if you can. And try to take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold in for 2 seconds and breathe out from your mouth. Let's do it 2 more times. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out from your mouth. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out from your mouth. And try to get back to the natural rhythm of your breathing. And just try to feel the support beneath you. The chair, the bed, the sofa, the couch, whatever it is, and your feet touching the floor, and just relax and calm your body down by just focusing on where you are right now. And try to bring your attention to who you are, to how accomplished you are, because of how you have dealt with the things in your life, and how bravely you have dealt with them, because right now you're here listening to me and doing all it takes for one to take care of themselves, and just acknowledge your feelings without judging them, and just offer yourself. Tell yourself that I have to be kind to myself. The same way I will be kind to someone else if they are grieving. And the kindness and the care that I would give to someone else, I would like to give it to my own self. I can love myself the same way I would love any other person if they are grieving or if they're suffering a loss. And I deserve to process things. I deserve to share. I deserve to have my space and have my time. And it does not make me a bad person. It's just who I am. And just as any human being would be if they suffered a loss. And try to breathe in deeply as you are thinking about this. And as you breathe out, just imagine creating a little more space around your emotions. Don't push your emotions away. You're not supposed to judge yourself or anyone else for how you and others grieve. Allow yourself to carry your emotions with gentleness and not resistance. And try to notice your heartbeat by putting your hand on your chest and try to feel your heartbeat. And remind yourself that in order to heal, you don't have to forget anything. You just have to learn to move forward while honoring that something has been meaningful in your life. You don't have to forget. That is not a prerequisite for moving forward or for moving on. You just have to let your life be independent of the things happening in your external. You have to keep moving forward and you'll keep healing once you let the memories stay and honor them for being something that was meaningful in your life, but it doesn't define everything. It was just a part, not the entire story. So just take one deep breath at the end. And whenever it feels okay for you, just try to open your eyes if you closed them. So we can try to understand um, grief, what grief really is. Because now that we've spent some minutes trying to connecting with ourselves, we need to understand what is happening psychologically and biologically when we are grieving. One of the biggest misconceptions about grief is that it's just an emotion. Grief is a whole person experience. It's not merely an emotion because it influences our thoughts, it influences our emotions. Sadness is an emotion, anger is an emotion. People may process grief through emotions, expression of emotions, through behaviors, and relationships and physical health. They all encompass that experience of grief. It's a whole person experience. And that's why people who are grieving, they notice changes in their energy. They notice changes in their appetite, in their sleep. Some people would sleep more often, and some won't sleep at all. Some would experience insomnia. Some would have motivation issues, concentration issues. And it's because our brains are designed for attunement from the very beginning of our lives, from infancy, from we start emotional bonding with our mothers, with our parents, with our caregivers who help us feel safe and connected. And when these bonds are disrupted through loss, what does that do? Our brain gradually adjusts to a new reality, right? And that adjustment process is what we experience as grief. Now, if we talk about the brain, amygdala plays a major role in processing emotions. What parts of the brain are involved in this whole experience of grief? Amygdala, primarily amygdala, because it plays a very major role in processing your emotions in day-to-day life. It becomes more active, it makes your emotions feel more intense and more difficult to regulate in in the early stages of grief, in the very beginning, right? Then comes your hippocampus. What does that do? It helps you organize and process the memories and the experiences, which and how does that work with our emotional system? It is always working with our emotional system, our amygdala. It helps our brain gradually integrate the reality of the loss that we have experienced into our life story over time, because it's primarily working on the memory and the experiences. So it is largely connected with our emotional system, with our alarm system, with our amygdala. Then we have the prefrontal cortex, which is again very important for, or you can say it is actually responsible for planning, attention, decision making, emotional regulation, all of it, emotional regulation per se. Now, it doesn't always function as efficiently when we are under significant emotional stress. And this is one of the many reasons, one reason that many grieving people actually experience difficulty in concentrating. They experience so much mental fatigue that usually people refer to as brain fog. There's too much mental fatigue. They don't understand what's going on. They're not able to concentrate. That's because your prefrontal cortex is actually not working properly. It's not working efficiently. Now, it also, when we talk about grief, it also affects our stress response, the body's stress response. Cortisol, which is the stress hormone, the very well-known stress hormone, and which just increases during periods of pain, loss, grief. And when cortisol actually remains elevated for a long period of time, what does that do? You may feel tired. Your entire body is in a state of fight or flight mode. Sleep will be affected. Again, here, this will also impact your concentration. And this will eventually affect your immune system as well. Your serotonin, dopamine, all of these, they all fluctuate when you are grieving. So, a lot of things that once felt enjoyable, they don't feel enjoyable anymore because these big changes are happening in your body. And once you understand these biological changes, it can be reassuring that a lot of people, they say it's just in your head. It's not just in our head, it's going all over our body. It's going through our brain, our nervous system, our neurotransmitters. Everything is getting it's fluctuating, it's transitioning, it's changing, it's involved. So it's the grief is not in your head. It is a reaction that is a result of a normal biological adjustment to a significant change in your life. So, this is what's happening. This is something we all need to understand before we judge ourselves or other people. These are the things that you cannot consciously control. Okay? Things get very, very escalated. And it's also very important to remember that no two people in the world, and I repeat, no two people in the world grieve in the same way. Why am I saying this? You may imagine a person talking way too much in a funeral, while there's like two children of the same parents. One's talking too much about his life with the parents, and the other is talking very less. He's become silent, he's become mute. They are both processing their griefs differently. One feels better expressing it, talking about it. The other feels like he needs some space before interacting with the world. And our personalities, every personality is different, right? Our personalities, our culture, our family environment as well. Our family environment as well. Our previous life experiences, our coping skills, and spiritual beliefs as well. They are so important. Not to discredit the impact of spiritual beliefs or social support. Some may have social support, some may not. Some may have good, some may have really good social support. All of these things influence the way our grief is expressed. Now, I may like talking about my emotions. Other person may not like it. Some may process it quietly, and I may like the other person may not like to express it because previously in his life, because of a past experience, his expression led him to feel to be judged by other people. He did not have many emotionally intelligent people around him, which eventually led him to feel judged. So he prefers keeping it to himself. So all these things, including life experiences, they all impact our expression of grief. And it's not the right thing to actually ask if I'm grieving the right way. And eventually these things even create a doubt in our own hearts that what am I doing wrong? I'm not doing it the right way. But that's not the question you should be asking. You should be asking yourself that, am I allowing myself to actually experience my emotion while actually adopting to a big life transition, big life change? I'm adapting to something that I wasn't ready for. And to further feel judged for it, that's a lot to handle. So you should allow yourself. The biggest thing that you can do for yourself is to allow yourself to feel, to let things be. And when we talk about healing, um, healing does not mean forgetting. It also does not mean wiping out your memories. It also doesn't mean that your pain is going to disappear. It's not going to disappear. In some form or the other, the pain remains for some people. You do not stop missing someone. You do not stop feeling sad again. And it does not mean you're not going to feel sad. It just doesn't mean any of that. Healing is a very, very different concept than removing things. Healing is not removal. Healing is adaptation. Healing is understanding, and healing is control. That the loss that you experienced, it's no longer controlling any aspect of your day. You are feeling pain, you are feeling sad, but none of that is controlling your day. You begin to function again. You are sleeping well, you are eating well, you are doing the best that you can, you are not dysfunctional. You can feel things without feeling guilty. You can laugh without feeling guilty. You can smile, you can interact, you can make plans, you can travel and think about your future without feeling guilty and just honoring the past. Your memories remain, but they just become less overwhelming. When people say time heals everything, now it doesn't mean that you keep on forgetting. It just means that with time to you learn to allot a specific part of your mind to grieve that loss, to feel that pain, and at the same time, you're letting your life move forward on track. It just doesn't mean that you're removing anything from you. It means you are taking care of you. You can do that by taking care of you, regardless of how difficult it feels, in practical ways, by staying connected to supportive people who won't judge you, by maintaining a routine that is good for your physical and mental well-being, and by allowing yourself to experience emotions instead of actually suppressing them. Right? We have talked so much about how suppressing emotions can be bad, and they just don't get out of your body and your system when you suppress them. They just become, you know, they just bulk up, pile up, and that's not what we want for a healthy psychological well-being. You can find meaning and help through your faith, spiritual connections, and relationships. They can also help you out with your healing process. And one of the most important thing is to reach out for professional help and professional support when grief starts feeling too overwhelming to manage alone. But um, you have to also develop some skills to actually deal with it while you are going towards the practical steps, towards the practical ways of healing. You need to give yourself some space where you can actually be yourself, where you can think about it, be mindful. And the development of these skills takes some time, but eventually, if you leave with one thing in your mind today, you can that grief doesn't have to define our entire lives. So how do we stop that from happening? By learning to stopping it, to stop it from controlling everything that we do, by stopping it from making us dysfunctional, with self-compassion, with self-love, with being with look by looking towards our internal strengths, by focusing on our strengths. Remember the last time we talked about flourishing, we talked about strengths that exist in us. By talking more about it, by focusing on them, we can use our strengths to get out of it. We can use our personal values to get out of grief. So, before I call it a day, I would like you to reflect on, because I always end up with a reflection question at the end of the day. Um, what is something that loss taught you about yourself? Something positive. What is that thing that actually taught you how do you deal with loss? What is that one thing? Would you like to share it in chat box, or you would just like to reflect on it for today? Um, what are healthy ways that you have developed over the course of your life through which you process grief, through which you heal through grief? Because as I said, it's different for everybody. One thing that I would like to share about my own self is that I have been able to process grief by understanding what has happened, what so and so when so and so thing has happened in my life. If I talk about my health, I tried to understand that it wasn't in my hands. It just happened, and at this point, I'm healthy. The health issues that I faced in the beginning of my year, they were there and they were bad and they were traumatic. But as I'm moving forward, I'm getting better. I did all I could to fight those health issues, and I did it all alone. And I'm brave and I'm courageous for that. And when these are my ways of dealing with grief, when I'm reflecting at my personal values, I'm brave, I'm courageous in so many ways. I have dealt with a lot of things in my life that I did not imagine myself going through. And I feel like since I have been through it, I feel much stronger now. I have been able to fight it because it was something I couldn't survive, but I did. So eventually, what does it tell me about myself? It tells me that I am brave, I am courageous, and if a life obstacle comes in front of me, I can definitely fight back. I definitely have the strengths I need to fight those issues and those obstacles. So, if you could reflect on that, what is that one thing in you? How do you cope with it? I I may not have a lot of social support, you can say. You may not have enough social support, or you may not have many relationships in your life that would help you out with it. But maybe you have other ways. You meditate, you go out, you interact with people, you may have a job that means a lot to you, something meaningful in your life, something purposeful in your life. It could be absolutely anything. Maybe you started caring for yourself more. Maybe if you encountered a health issue, maybe you care for yourself much, much more than you did before. And it made you value something that you didn't value before. So if anybody would like to share, that's good. If not, then we can call it a day. Right. All right, I think so. That is it then. All right. I hope you had a wonderful day today. And for those who have just started off with their days, I hope you have a wonderful day today. So I will see you all tomorrow and on the same link and at the same time. So see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.